Hi, thanks for coming back to pinecreekmusic.com or our YouTube channel of Pine Creek Music. This is part 2 of our review of a $40 Stratocaster from a company called Ammooon, A-M-M-O-N, excuse me, A-M-M-O-O-N in China. We're going to be doing this part of the review using a Bugera V22 tube amp with it's on triode, and everything is set to 5. So we're going to be as neutral as we can here. This is part 2 of this video because we've had a chance to look at the guitar, and we have already ordered new electronics, new cable, output cable connector, and new lace pickups for it. And the reason for that is because of a couple of things. First, I don't know if this is going to show up on the video. If you look carefully around this screw here, you will see that the metal is actually bent from putting the screw in there. Now, the reason that would happen is because this is very cheap, thin metal. So we've already got a replacement for that. If that's this cheap, you know the electronics and the connector and everything inside is junk. So, so we've got a replacement for that. We have a replacement for all the electronics and pots, and we have new lace pickups for it. Now, it's not that the pickups are all that bad on this, but as long as we have it open, we're going to redo all the electronics. We might as well do it right. Some things that are interesting about this guitar. We have not set this up. This guitar is not set up. This is as it came out of the box. We showed you the gig bag for it. Turns out it barely fits in the gig bag. It does fit, but barely. The gig bag, we put a mini Strat in there, and the mini Strat fits perfectly. So the gig bag's a little small. The edges of the frets have not been filed down, so they're kind of, these are sharp. This needs work. We're going to take care of that. We're going to file the edges down, because right now this is sharp, and if you were playing hard, you'd be cutting your hands up, literally cutting your fingers up. They're really sharp. This is a plastic nut. It's binding when we try to tune it. So we have a graphite, a Tusk graphite nut we're gonna replace this plastic nut with. When you try to tune it, you can hear the string. Okay, we're back. We actually had a delay here. We got interrupted and couldn't finish. So this is actually the next day, roughly 24 hours later, and amazingly the guitar stayed fairly in tune. These are obviously new strings, so I think the tuners are going to be okay, but this nut has to go, because as far as we can tell, that noise, that twangy noise, which is only on the B string, it's the only one that does that, and it only does it when you're playing it open. As far as we can tell, that's from the nut. We already have a new Tusk graphite nut for this that we're going to replace it with. This nut is clearly, I mean, you can just look at it and say this is plastic junk. This guitar is not set up, as we said earlier, but the other thing we discovered overnight, and I think I mentioned before, that these fret ends need to be all filed down. It's like a cheese grater. I actually have scrape marks on my finger from messing around with this yesterday, going like this. I was actually cutting my finger, and I didn't realize it at first, because they're very light cuts, but they're there. It's a $40 guitar. A little bit more attention paid to the neck, and you wouldn't have that issue. this is not something that, you know, somebody who's buying a beginner guitar probably knows how to deal with. This thing is going to cut you up. You're not going to have a good time. You're going to hate the guitar. You're not going to play it anymore. The other thing that I wanted to point out, oh, and by the way, we're using our little ET01 clip-on tuner that you can buy on our site. And this thing works great on here. I'm very happy with it. We checked it against the frequency counters, both one that we have and one that's in one of our foot pedals, and everything's in agreement there. The other thing I wanted to point out was, you know, for half a cent they could have included the spring that Fender includes for the tremolo arm, for the vibrato, and I don't know why so many guitar manufacturers don't include that little spring, but we'll come up with one. We'll find one someplace. I think I mentioned before that we already have purchased and we're going to do in a future review. We're going to take this guitar, we're going to set it up, we're going to fix the frets, we're going to put in new lace tuners, we're going to put in all new Stuart McDonald electronics. We'll do a whole segment on that. That'll be part 3. That'll be video part 3. That will show you what we were able to turn this guitar into. Because I believe that everything is here. I think we'll be able to set it up correctly. I believe that with better electronics, and who knows, I might open this up and find out everything's fine. I just don't expect that to be the case because so many other things are goofy. In fact, you can't see it, and I couldn't really show it to you, but this pickup here is actually it's not level, which is kind of odd, but and there's no way to adjust them. I don't know. Anyways, it's a $40 guitar. I think for just a little bit more work, and you know, the body's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty close. As a starter guitar, this would have been okay. If they had addressed a few things, they could have charged $50, $65 for it. It would have been worth it. As it is, I would say no. Go out and get yourself one of these Epiphone Les Pauls for $100. You know, the neon colored ones. Fantastic guitar for the money. Either that or get yourself your own do-it-yourself guitar kit and do that, because that could be a lot more fun and you'd learn a lot more rather than messing around with this. I believe the frets are all the same height. I don't think there's a problem with that. They just didn't do the ends of them. And the fretboard seems fine. You know, there's various other things about this guitar that are okay, but anyways. So I'm going to let you hear it, and what we're going to do, a lot of times people will play the guitar. They'll try to impress you with their playing. It makes it very difficult to tell what's going on. I'm not going to do that. I just tuned it up again. It was actually in tune except for like one key or one string. So I'm literally just going to play the strings with the various switch settings so that you can hear what's going on. As I mentioned before, the amplifier, whoops, we're going to be in the normal input. All of the controls are set to 5. We're in the middle of everything. It's completely neutral. We're trying to get the amplifier out of it. We're just going to, I'm not going to, well, I'll give you an example of the tremolo here. I don't know how many times I could do that before it goes out of tune, but so this is with, I guess that's switch position 1. I don't. Anyways, so we're down here. This is a 5-position switch. I've got the tones are all set to 1. Volumes are roughly the middle. This is what we got. See, it went out of tune again already. Just from messing with the tremolo arm. Put this in guitar mode. Alright. Whoops. Chromatic guitar. There we go. Yeah. Just messing with the tremolo arm. We already put it out of tune. We don't need that problem too on top of everything else. I'll edit this part out. You don't need to sit there and listen to me tune the guitar. Looks like everything went flat, which is, you know, the strings are new, so actually I'm not surprised by that. And that could be as much to do with it as using the tremolo. Yeah, everything went flat and by roughly about the same amount too, so okay. I really like these clip-on tuners. They work really well. I've used them on violin, ukulele. I haven't used them on bass yet. But you can put it in chromatic mode and use it for like, I don't know, trumpet or something. And they work. Come on back. This is the tricky string, okay. That's close. You can actually hear the difference. There we go. All right. All right. So here's this position one. All right. Position 2. Not bad. Position 3. So, I mean, it's not awful. My biggest concern is that when I open it up to change out the amplifier connection here, the cable connection, that I'm going to see that this stuff is very weak. The pots are probably too small, etc. And while it's okay now, they're just not going to stand up to use. Plus, we want to test out the Stuart McDonald parts that they send us, so we can do a review on them. So we will be taking this guitar apart. We'll replace those parts, probably even if they don't need it. We'll be putting in the lace pickups, and we'll use part of this video to as a before, and then we'll do the after. So our recommendation is on these Ammoon guitars that you can pick up, you know, eBay and various places for like $40. Don't do it. Spend a little bit more money. If you're a beginner and you don't know how to do all this stuff yourself, and or you don't want to, and you know, if you're a beginner, why? Go to your local guitar store, you know, music store. Have them set you up with an inexpensive used guitar. There's no reason these days that you can't start to learn to play guitar on a decent guitar that costs more than $100, $150 max. You know, and you're not going to get a guitar case for that, or anything, just the guitar itself. Check out those Epiphones, the new Les Pauls that they have. They have a single pickup. They just have a volume and a tone, and you know what? They sound great. And if you want to learn how to play guitar, you're going to be able to rock out on that. Okay, that's our recommendation. We're going to use this as a test bed for the electronics, but I don't recommend you buy one of these guitars. Thanks for coming by. Stay tuned for part 3 of these videos when we actually redo the electronics and come back and show you what we ended up with. But even that's not going to change our opinion, because we could have bought a do-it-yourself, we could have got a parts caster, we could have done a lot of things, spent roughly the same money and done less work and ended up with a better sounding guitar, in my opinion. We can't find anything wrong with this stupid B string, by the way. I checked and checked and checked. The only thing I can figure out is it's this nut, which is just junk. Thanks for coming by.